Hey everyone, Arthur here. Once again, we have a Capcom sale going on, and normally I would only mention this with a post or something, since this is like the 4th or 5th time for Capcom sales, but in this one they actually included 3 meaningful Virtual Console games, which is beyond rare. Virtual Console games hardly ever go on sale, so I had to cover them. Also, this gives me the opportunity to cover a lot of other obscure games also going for cheap right now. And unfortunately, once more, Europe is left out from the Capcom titles, but pretty much everything else is available on both Europe as well as Americas. So without further ado, let's take a look at the games. Welcome to the channel. This is From the Void. Let's begin with the 3 Virtual Console games. First, we have a rather meaningful entry on the Resident Evil franchise that I bet most people overlooked. We're talking about Resident Evil: The Umbrella Chronicles. This is an on-rails arcade shooter, which is probably the reason why people ignored it. I bet most immediately figured this would be shallow both in gameplay as well as in story, but those are incorrect assumptions. The game jumps from several different scenarios and time periods, telling different, never-before-seen parts of the story, covering events from Resident Evil 0, the original, and Resident Evil 3, as well as a whole new scenario taking place in Russia. In total, you can play with 9 characters from the series here. If you are a Resident Evil fan, this has a lot to offer. In the gameplay department, of course, if you dislike the lack of freedom from on-rail shooters, this is not gonna be for you, but the gameplay is surprisingly deep here. You have some freedom to move the camera around, there's a lot of stuff to find lying around, several weapons to equip, grenades, melee combat, it's all pretty faithful to the series. Plus, once you unlock it, this game can be played in co-op, which is always a blast for this type of game. Umbrella Chronicles is a great Resident Evil, a solid 8 out of 10 in my view, and it's never been so cheap at $4.99 with a 75% discount. Still on the Resident Evil series, we have Resident Evil 4 Wii Edition. The remake for Resident Evil 4 has been announced only a few weeks ago, which for some will mean that they care only about that, but for others it may be an incentive to play or replay the original. And the Wii Edition is a terrific way to do that. Once again, I get the feeling that this version gets a bad reputation because of the motion controls, but first of all, you can opt to use the regular controls here, while the motion controls work perfectly well while still managing to keep the original intent of having kind of an obtuse control scheme to intensify the oppressive feeling that permeates the entire game. And just like with the regular controls, it allows you to master it and become incredibly proficient by the end of the game, despite the tough learning curve. Other than that, this version includes the extra stuff from the PlayStation 2 and PC versions, with the new Ada Wong scenario. As for the game itself, I don't need to say much, right? This is a total masterpiece in my opinion. It's still my favorite Resident Evil game ever. Resident Evil 4 Wii Edition is going for mere $4.99, 75% off. And the other Virtual Console game on sale from Capcom is Zack and Wiki. If you're not aware, this is an excellent puzzle adventure game that makes great use of the Wii's motion controls. It uses it to its full potential. It's actually outstanding and a big reason for all the praise the game got, receiving lots of 9s. You search the environments for clues and items and use those to solve the puzzles and open your way to the next section, always using the items in realistic ways with the aid of the motion controls. controls. The presentation is excellent with a quirky story and several likable characters. This is a creative and unique game totally worth the $4.99 price, 75% discounted from its original $19.99. There are several other Capcom games on sale, pretty important titles too, but since I already covered all of those in a previous sale, I'll be quick about each one. First we have DuckTales Remastered. This is a terrific side-scroller platformer, enhanced with gorgeous graphics, music, and a phenomenal voiceover from the original cast of the animated series. They kept the gameplay from the original intact, or with minor changes, which is a great thing since this was already an awesome platformer. DuckTales is a must-play for platforming fans in my opinion, and it's now super cheap for $3.74. Next is the Ace Attorney series. This is a well-known franchise of story-driven visual novels where you act both as an investigator as well as a lawyer to defend clients from their accusations. You will be talking to witnesses and searching the crime scenes for evidence to be used in a logic system in court, with cross-examinations trying to find inconsistencies in the accusations. These are awesome games, very unique, full of drama and engrossing stories. There isn't a single bad Ace Attorney game, and 3 of them are on sale right now. Apollo Justice Ace Attorney, currently 75% off, going for $4.99, while the 2 entries on the series made for the 3DS, which are Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice, are both 83% off, also going for $4.99. These last 2, by the way, have DLCs which are meaningful and not too expensive. If you're interested, I recently uploaded a video covering every single DLC I could find, plus some that I didn't find but the audience did. So search for a link in the description or in the top corner to see all the DLCs if you want. Following up with Super Street Fighter 4 3D Edition. Maybe thinking that this is an inferior version of the home console originals, but they added a bunch of new features that make this one totally unique and could justify a purchase for fans of the series. It includes a stunning 3D mode that actually changes the camera perspective, which is pretty cool. There are also 2 new difficulty modes, touchscreen functionality, and a bunch of costumes already included that were previously DLCs. This is a really cool version of Street Fighter 4, and all the more attractive with the 75% discount, going for $4.99. Next we have Dungeons & Dragons Chronicles of Mystara. This is an excellent beat-em-up compilation from Capcom with 2 great arcade originals, Dungeons & Dragons Tower of Doom and Shadow over Mystara. The gameplay is solid, with many characters controlling widely different from each other, so if you're into beat-em-ups, and especially if you have friends or family to play this with, do yourself a favor and get Chronicles of Mystara, now that is going for $3.74 with a 75% discount. Moving on to the Monster Hunter series, needless to say, these games were pretty much universally praised. They're excellent action RPGs with loads of content in each one, and for sure, some of the most amazing creatures in video games. There are 3 games on sale in this series right now. Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate and Monster Hunter Generations are available on the 3DS, and Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate is on both the Wii U as well as on the 3DS. 3 is currently 75% off on 3DS, going for $4.99, or 80% off on the Wii U, going for $7.99. Then Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, which by the way is the only version of this game that ever made it to the West as a 3DS exclusive, is currently 83% off for $4.99. And finally, Monster Hunter Generations. This has a Switch Ultimate version with several enhancements, so you may want to consider getting that one instead, but on the 3DS it's 87% off, going for $4.99. Now to the lesser known games, and I'm thrilled to talk about some of those, including the fantastic hidden gem EScapeVektor. This is so very obscure and at the same time a great game despite not looking like anything special, I realize that. So it's a perfect hidden gem right here. The beginning, however, is really underwhelming. As soon as you start playing, you get the feeling that this is gonna be a shallow game. You basically control this vector shape that leaves a colored trail behind, and the objective is to fill in the entire path with color. It's beyond simple of a premise. It's very similar to Pac-Man actually, but it evolves a lot and the simple gameplay becomes addictive and loads of fun. It introduces a bomb attack to remove the enemies, a boost that lasts a long time, which really improves the gameplay, and some other abilities, while the enemies and stages also evolve a lot. This is a great game. Like I said, it doesn't look like one, but it is. You can search online for confirmation. It received really favorable reviews, and it's now 50% off, going for mere $3.49, so there has never been a better time to get it. Check out EScapeVektor. Next is one of the quirkiest and most unusual ideas for a game ever. Let's talk about the Legend of Kusakari. Yeah, another completely obscure game. And okay, take a look at this scene here. Who do you think you control here? One of the soldiers in fierce battles against the slimes? Nope. The hero crossing the screen in a gruesome duel with a goblin? Nope. Maybe this is a strategy game of sorts where you control all of them? Wrong again. You are the gardener. Your purpose is to cut grass so that the fighters can do their fighting in leveled fields without worrying about the overgrown grass. To them, you don't even exist. They don't even notice you. If you come in contact, you get damaged and they keep on brawling. It's a solitary mission and an incredibly simple premise that amazingly translates into a fun and deeply addictive game. You have no idea. There are of course plenty of things to worry about. Your sickle levels up the more you cut the grass, increasing its reach. There are bushes that take several slashes to cut, and of course all the moving fighters making your task all the more difficult. Especially the hero, he's the worst. He almost kills you in one bump, the jerk. Anyway, this is The Legend of Kusakari, a game that takes that one aspect from The Legend of Zelda that no one else focused on and focuses on it so hard it's kind of genius. And so much fun. And so cheap now for $2.49, 50% off, totally worth it. If The Legend of Kusakari wasn't quirky enough of an idea, I've got just the right game for you. Ambition of the Slimes. This is an absolutely obscure turn-based strategy RPG with a big distinction. Instead of controlling the humans, you take charge of the monsters here, or more precisely, the slimes, as the title implies. However, true to their reputation from decades of gaming culture, the slimes are feeble creatures. If you engage in combat, the humans have a sizable upper hand, but these are not your regular old slimes here. They have an ace up their sleeve, let me tell you. They can turn the humans' advantage completely against them by claiming their bodies. And they do that in the most gruesome, awesome way possible, by prying their mouths open and forcing themselves down the humans' throats. This is either the most disgusting or the most awesome thing I've ever seen in a strategy RPG to date. I'm not sure which one. This really transforms the whole dynamic of the combats. It's always a joy to decide whose body to claim, and there are several things to be mindful of, such as elemental affinities of each character, enemies with helmets that make it more difficult to claim them, and a lot more. Real cool and unusual strategy game here, totally worth your time and money, especially now that it is 50% cheaper at $250. Ambition of the Slimes, check it out. Following up with The Keep. This is a first-person dungeon crawler, but before you dismiss it, it's not a turn-based one, contrary to most games of this kind. It's actually an action RPG, which is nowadays unusual and immediately interesting to me. You use the stylus to strike enemies by swiping, you can even do combos by swiping back and forth, so there's a little bit of a need for skill here. You do everything manually, from using levers and keys, equipping gear, to managing your inventory and doing all the battling, which makes this a deep and immersive game for sure, and the story is interesting too. Great game here, and it's receiving a hefty discount, going for mere $199, 84% off from the $12.99 regular price. Following up with hidden gem exclusive to the Wii U, 3 Souls. I covered this one once already, but I'll emphasize once more that despite how it looks, it's an excellent game with some unique creativity in its gameplay. It uses the gamepad functionality in clever ways to basically manipulate the things in the environment around you, by, for instance, connecting to the surveillance cameras and physically moving it around to find hidden platforms. It's cooler than it sounds or looks, trust me. And it's super cheap now for a mere $249, 50% off. Moving on to simple but fun Pazuru. This is a puzzle game, but it also requires some amount of skill and dexterity. You rotate the red shapes, have the black ones disappear or reappear to collect all the shiny things while avoiding the spikes. Very often you have to be precise and quick about your button inputs, which feels pretty good. Pazuru is a minimalistic but fine puzzle game, very much worth the 50% discounted price of $2.99. Next is Rytmik Ultimate. This is not a game, it's a music creation app for your 3DS that offers a wide range of samples, musical instruments, and editing tools. This can be cool for music creation on the go, and the stylus controls are rather intuitive, although of course there's a sizable learning curve for the software itself. The more attractive aspect right now is the price. It's currently 83% off, going for $2.99. Next are the Kemco RPGs. Apparently every 2 weeks or so there's a new batch of Kemco RPGs that goes on sale on the 3DS. It's crazy. I mean, how many RPGs did they publish? Jeez. This time, however, 3 of them seem to be much better than usual, starting with Journey to Kreisia. In this one, the battles are similar to Final Fantasy X, in that your characters can get more than one action if they are fast enough, and enemies' turns can be delayed, breaking the turn-based mode in a good way in my opinion. I really like the Final Fantasy X battle system, and at least the in-battle graphics are really good looking to me. The story seems to be another highlight according to critics, so this one is kind of a hidden gem among the horde of average Kemco RPGs. So some of you may be interested in getting it for $4.99, 50% off. Symphony of Eternity is another above average Kemco RPG. Despite some really crude looking graphics, there is a lot of love put into this game, with a well-balanced difficulty requiring a good amount of strategy story, no random encounters, and a good amount of enjoyment to be had throughout the game's entire duration, according to critics. This one is cheaper too, going for $3.99, 50% off. Then Asdivine Cross closes the better Capcom RPGs on sale. It's apparently full of customization options, including the possibility of creating combos for your characters. It still has issues in the presentation department and cliché characters, but the bottom line here seems to be positive, 7 out of 10 at least. The other Capcom RPG doesn't fare as well. That would be Alphadia, which received real mediocre scores, 5s all around. It's apparently completely unambitious in all aspects. It's also going for $4.99, 50% off. Next is weird and obscure Puzzle Labyrinth. This is not as much of a puzzle game as the title suggests, weirdly enough. It's more of an exploration game. The gameplay is more akin to a point-and-click adventure game than proper puzzle. You move about in a first-person dungeon crawling manner, and despite having encounters with enemies that make it seem like it's an RPG, there is no RPG gameplay to be found here. It's all about finding the correct way to unlock the door and escape to the next stage, even when that includes defeating enemies. For instance, in this room, you need an axe to defeat the Dark Dragon. The axe, however, is on the other side of the pit, which you can cross with the whip. But the axe is too heavy, so you fall if you try crossing the pit while carrying it. So what to do? Yeah, that's the sort of thing you'll be doing in this game, and it's a good one if you like this kind of gameplay. The initial several stages, however, are stupidly basic, so be advised. It only picks up a few stages later. Puzzle Labyrinth is a weird game, but worth the $2.50 discounted price that it's currently going for, in my opinion. And those are all the meaningful games on sale right now. Hope you found this interesting, entertaining, or informative. If you did, consider leaving a like. It's important so that the algorithm can determine that it should suggest this to more people. So I would really appreciate that. I'm constantly checking the eShops for sales on the 3DS and Wii U, daily actually, in preparation for the store's closing, so consider subscribing to catch the next one. And I'll start covering sales on other consoles too. I'll try the Switch next. I'm also making a very thorough coverage of all games and DLCs available on the eShops. You should be seeing a bunch of suggested videos on those topics on screen right now, and there are loads of hidden gems there too, so take a look if you're interested. In any case, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.